Now it's time for your weekend tech tip, brought to you by Chevy Silverado.
Now, we've already talked with Ken a little bit about the double rig setup and some of the options that you have. Remember, you can go to Fisherman's Marine and find these things. We're going to talk a little bit about that more in just a little bit. Here's what is so awesome about Ken's pre-rig setups. You literally just buy them and you fish them, right? You just get them onto your main line. You end up with this one here being the perfect setup for a double rig. Then, if you want to switch it out and say go to a triple, or maybe change things up completely how you're going to fish, maybe you're going to decide to start now dragging your gear out with the triple wobbler setup or something similar, and you're going to be dropping it. It's just easy click and play. Whereas when, you know, the hard way would just be to retie things over and over again. But we've shown the double rig setup. Let's talk about the lead. I know that it seems simple to us, but for a lot of people that are new, which leads do you like to throw? Is there a specific style that you prefer?
You know, you want to, most of the areas that we're going to be fishing is sandy bottoms. So you want something that's going to stick. So I tend to get away from ball lead. I use a lot of pyramids.
Okay, so pyramid lead, so kind of standard.
Yes, standard pyramid leads, and that's the best right there. In areas where there's a really slack area, then a ball lead would work well.
Gotcha. So maybe on an incoming tide if you had to, but to recommend something that's always going to hang, always going to be fishing, and not sliding around.
Correct.
You know, that pyramid lead's going to do it for you, or depending again where you are, the pancake leads do work. And they're kind of designed for sand or flat spots, but they're definitely not going to take the current that a pyramid will. So just focus on the pyramids, get yourself a good selection from 5 to 10 ounces, again, depending on the zones that you're going to be fishing, so that at least you have what it is that you need.
And traditionally, you know, when we made leaders before, we always had a drop line for our lead.
Right.
In this situation, you just attach it right to the end.
I love that. And it's also in that same 100-pound.
Yes.
150-pound.
And it comes with a dual snap and everything right there. So once you get the fish, you're basically lifting up and fighting the fish all the way in and trying to lift that lead off the bottom.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah.
You know, you can have a 20-pound leader on there or dropper, but break your leads off a lot, right?
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things you got to kind of pay attention to. And if you're in here's the advice I would give with this: if you're going to be fishing in a spot that is rocky, where you could possibly, like, say, closer to Bonneville Dam, I'm going to recommend a bumper. On there, maybe just a small 6-inch piece, maybe even smaller, so that you can break that lead off and not break everything off.
Exactly.
But, all right, now let's talk about sockeye spinning glows. Now, I'm already noticing something about those blades. Well, I'll leave that to you to describe that if you wish, but what size do you like? And is there a preference as far as colors go?
You know, when it comes to spin glows, I don't, every time someone asks me, I said, don't overweigh your spin glows with coon shrimp. And they say, what? Well, I use size 1s or size 2s, finesse wide gaps. Okay. And the other thing, too, is that the spin glow weight to weight ratio of coon shrimp, and I apologize, I forgot to bring those coon shrimps in.
Oh, that's all right.
But you don't want to overweigh this. So these are size 4s and size 6.
So you like the smaller coon
shrimp. The presentation, I feel, is a lot more. You could use bigger, and they catch them on bigger spin glows, but the 4s and 6 have been just money.
Okay, and then the smaller coon shrimp to go with it?
Exactly, the smaller. So if you would get like you know, a jar of coon shrimp, I would grade them out and get the smaller ones in there. Okay. And the reason for that is the size of the hook and the ratio. You don't want to cover up your whole hook.
Here's one I got to ask, because he's got a lot more experience plunking for sockeye than I've got a handful of years chasing these things. Stretchy string? No stretchy string.
No, and like I say, I apologize, but it's as simple as taking the egg loop out, sliding it right onto there, and then putting the egg loop right over the tail section.
Okay, so I asked that question for a reason, and I know you understand this. There are times that sockeye can be so finicky that if you wrap them with a stretchy string, you're not going to get bit.
Ugh, it's horrible.
And then when you take the stretchy or rebait, you need to put the coon shrimp on just like he's saying, with just that egg loop around the tail to hold it straight. Same rigging that we've talked about in the past, running that hook from the meat through the carapace, right? And then the tail through that loop that you make with your egg loop. Okay? So understanding that, this drives me nuts, because we watched the guys down there at one of the very popular beaches, literally bing, ding, 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 And we noticed, my buddy Freddie actually noticed, nobody's wrapping anything.
Yeah.
And we're wrapping. We're not catching. First thing he does is make a cast without stretchy string on there. He had a fish.
Fish on.
So it's really just that. I mean, it's one of those things where they're finicky.
Yeah, they are finicky. So that's I would highly suggest not using any miracle threads, strings, or anything like that to put it onto there. And then you're using the smaller coon shrimp, which fits really well with a size 1 or you can fish all the way up to, the biggest I've ever fished for sockeye is 1/0.
Okay, well, that's a good size hook for crying out loud.
Yeah, is a 1/0. Finesse wide gap, though.
Gotcha.
Very light gauge hooks.
Right, and it's important with sockeye. I mentioned this from this past week with one of the steelhead that I had caught. The rod that I was using from Edge was the heavy version of their plunking rods, and it was too much. It was just like using a telephone pole for those fish. Okay, so size 4, size 6 spin and glow. You've got everything on here. Got black wings. I see no mylar. I don't see any white wings. All I see.
And they do catch fish. Mylar do catch fish. White wings does catch fish, but black is one of the most underrated colors for visual for sockeye, steelhead, and salmon. And the black wings, you could see the array of, the brightest colors I would use is just the red and the blacks or some greens, but most of the time I'm even felt penning mine.
Yeah, covering it up even more.
Covering it up more. And with the coon shrimp on there being red and the red beads, we find that we had a higher success ratio with the darker colors versus a lot of the brighter colors.
I would agree, because I've been on the other end of that.
Yeah.
Because I'm very much stuck on, white wings or mylar wings, even the different color of mylar wings that Yakima Bait has available for spin glows. So when you do get yourself your supply of spin glows for coon shrimp fishing, but for sockeye and steelhead, size 4, size 6, dark colors. I love purple.
Yeah, purple's another underrated color.
It's a really good color.
Yeah.
But you can see that there's multiple different versions with a little bit of speckle fleckle going on. I'm a big fan of kind of the hybrid color of what we would call the Willamette Special, but obviously in different color combination. But with those black wings, I think the fish, the sockeye and steelhead, they are very visually oriented. Yes, they're scent oriented like Chinook, but nowhere near as scent oriented as Chinook are. It's presenting that shrimp, that coon shrimp, just right, so that they can come up. This will float it up good. It'll give them a little bit of vibration, and then they see that bait and go after it as opposed to the spin glow overall. Okay, so for myself and for Ken, this is kind of basic rigging, but it is questions that we get constantly, and it's just don't overthink it. Would that be good advice?
Exactly. Don't overthink it. I think this is a very basic setup, but very effective.
No question.
Very effective.
Again, goes back, have the right gear, and then you need to get the right location.
Correct.
Okay? That is, I can't stress it enough, especially for sockeye. Steelhead, they will cover ground a little bit more. They will spread out a little bit more than sockeye. Sockeye are very, very defined in the line that they travel as they head upriver. Okay, so let's cut out. I want to come back. I want to talk about this bobber thing, all right? I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but maybe we will, because there's nothing more fun than watching the bobber sink. I don't care what species it's for, but when you hook a sockeye doing it, I'm kind of looking at this as another option, whereas you might have somebody else in the boat with you, they're fishing normal,
Correct.
And then maybe you can cast to the side.
Correct.
We're going to get more info on this. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Yakima Bait, steeped in tradition, innovation, and fishing success. And by Procure Bait Sense, ruthlessly effective.